Alright folks, the 4 stars of the new Mualani and Kazuha banners have been revealed. Let's take a look and decide whether they enhance the value of the 5.0 banners at all, or whether they completely drag them down. My name is Juice and let's get into it. We'll start by evaluating the value of these banner 4 stars for Mualani, then we'll take a look at how good they are for Kazuha. So, Bennett. He's obviously one of the best characters in Genshin Impact, and I think most people would agree that he is a part of the top 5 most meta units in the entire game. Bennett has been around ever since the game first came out, and he has remained absolutely crazy since then. He's still amazing for plenty of really meta characters, such as Linny and Arlecchino, while still being super strong for other highly competent DPSs such as Xiao and Navia. If you're a newer player that hasn't already got at least a C1 copy of Bennett, then you should absolutely aim for him. He has a crap ton of utility jam-packed into his kit, and you seriously can't go wrong when pulling for him. Bennett's main con is that you have to stay within his circle to consistently receive both his large attack buffs and his solid heals, which makes him feel nigh unplayable with characters that have crazy amounts of movement within their kit, such as Clorand, and ironically enough, Kinich. Beginner Navia mains who pulled for her during 4.8 that are lacking a good free-to-play team should also have their eyes laid on Bennett this time around, mostly because Kachina is going to be Navia's best-in-slot free-to-play teammate, and she's gonna be free! Plus, Xiangling is already free, so owning Bennett allows you to form the accessible and powerful team comp of Navia, Kachina, Bennett, and Xiangling. Alright, that's all fine and dandy, but I don't think you need me to tell you why Bennett is meta. That's all common knowledge. Rather, how well does he synergize with Mualani? Not at all? It's not just because of Bennett's tiny circle, which Mualani's movement-heavy kit completely goes against, which, for the record, that would be reason enough to not play them together, but rather the fact that Mualani benefits a whopping amount of 0 from attack buffs. She completely scales off of HP, and there's no reason to fuss about trying to keep her in a circle that isn't even benefiting her. Additionally, Mualani has other forms of defensive options that allow her to move around way more comfortably. Zhongli, Dia, Thoma, Xinyan. Ah yes, Xinyan. Xinyan is a character who, on her own, has very little merit. She's always been a weak character who never got a whole lot of love or attention from Hoyoverse, and has been the butt of the joke when it comes to the meta for some time now. Or honestly, not even that, because to me, Xinyan feels somewhat forgotten. Yet with Mualani's inception into the game, Xinyan's finally going to see a proper use case. She can act as a solid pyro shielding option and pyro applicator for Mualani teams. She isn't the best in slot option, as Dia, Thoma, and Xiangling are all better for that particular role, but the good news is that at least Xinyan can act as a viable alternative. More copies of Xinyan is also in her favor, as from C0 to C1, her shield is bugged and doesn't stack up properly. This is an issue that hasn't been fixed to this day, but with Xinyan C2 you can use her burst, which automatically grants Xinyan her shield, meaning that you could run a Xinyan build of 4-piece Cinder City with an ER Sands and weapon to consistently fire off Xinyan bursts for more pyro application and Mualani protecting shields. Definitely not some crazy 4-star that you should be chomping at the bit to build, and her value hasn't suddenly skyrocketed thanks to Mualani's existence, due to how many differing and effective alternatives there are for the role that Xinyan is trying to claim. Yet, I felt that it'd be nice to mention that Xinyan has indeed evolved thanks to what Natlan's going to be providing her. Kachina is an awesome 4-star. I've already made an entire video discussing her pros and cons in depth, but to summarize, she's gonna be an amazing Kazuha alternative in so many teams, especially for Nervalette, thanks to having the ability to take full use of 4-piece scroll of the hero of Cinder City. She beat C0R1 Chiori as Navia's best partner Geo, causing Chiori's early retirement, and she provides Nervalette with plenty of crystallized shards to pick up tiny shields, and grants him an extra stack of past draconic glories. When it comes to pulling from multiple copies, because she's obviously going to get power crept by Shilonen, I think anybody with more than 2 brain cells is able to figure that out. I'd actually say that you can be easily content with the free C0 copy that we're going to receive during the Natlan Archon quest. This is because Kachina's entire hype comes from being a Cinder City bot, and you could literally leave her at level 20 out of 40 without problems value-wise. Her constellations are all damage-centric, and that's not really the reason as to why you'd care about Kachina, so save your Primo Gems, no need to chase after C6. As for Mualani, no, she'll not work so fine with her. You're really not going to be able to get a Hydro Crystallize in her team comfortably. Honestly, this banner is quite good on the whole as a generalist banner, but nothing here really screams Mualani to me, aside from perhaps Xinyan, but Xiangli is free and better, and Thoma would have been a more logical placement considering that his shield is generally better for Mualani over Xinyan. Bennett is amazing for new players that haven't already maxed him out, and Natlan is for sure gonna bring a whole wave of new players that are new to the game. But for us veterans, yeah, this is whatever, as we've had so many Bennett banners already. Kachina is literally free, and you get her bucket loads of value at C0. Her constellations really don't bring anything new to the table buffing-wise, so you can skip out on constellation gathering. I'm kind of disappointed in this 4-star lineup for Mualani, because it doesn't take advantage of how generally unique her team options are compared to any other DPS in the game. Where's Candice? Where's Toma? I also think that Sucrose would have been a better meta unit to slot on banners instead of Bennett, because her EM share is wonderful for Mualani. It sounds counterproductive because they're running Kazuha next to Mualani, but dude, Hoyo has literally ran Sethos on Cloran's banner in the past. They've done it before. Also, Sucrose would not be a bad consolation prize at all for people who do not win or try to pull on Kazuha's banner. Also, on an unrelated note, Sethos is my goat. The banner 4 stars are okay for Mualani, with Bennett having complete anti-synergy with her at the benefit of being one of the best characters in the game in general. Since I've already briefly went over how each 4-star works and how they're useful in the meta in general, I'm gonna focus in more on how the banner 4 stars can help out Kazuha specifically, seeing as we're all here on the same page now. Alright, without further ado, let's begin by talking about Bennett once more. Kazuha's going to naturally find himself paired up with Bennett quite often. Think Arlecchino Vape teams, or even Arlecchino Emily teams, Linny Vape or Mono Pyro teams, etc. It's not so much that Kazuha wants Bennett, or vice versa, but rather that the best teams that you'll often find Kazuha in happen to have Bennett. Even some characters who don't traditionally use Bennett but do use Kazuha, such as Nervalette, do have some Bennett-based teams. In Nervalette's case, that'd be Nervalette National. Kazuha and Bennett can also be a cool synergy in of itself, because Pyro is always at the top of the element swirl priority, and Bennett's burst self-applies Pyro, so no matter how many different elements that are present around Kazuha, he'll always be guaranteed to swirl Pyro when using his skill within Bennett's burst. It also helps out Kazuha's reaction damage, which is quite nice, as his Pyro reaction damage is fairly high. Guaranteeing Pyro swirls is also great for VV consistency when it comes to Pyro DPS teams, for instance. Or even the fact that every time Kazuha bursts within Bennett's circle, because Bennett self-applies Pyro, Kazuha will always infuse his Leaf Tornado with Pyro. This is really nice for keeping higher Pyro uptime on enemies and teams where you really want that, such as Child International. Speaking of which, Internat is probably one of the most common uses of the Kazuha-Bennett synergy, and Kazuha can easily double swirl with his longer skill plunge thanks to the nature of Bennett's burst and thanks to how strong Child's Hydro Aura is. So even though the synergy of Bennett and Kazuha can just be chalked up to two very meta dudes that work with other very meta dudes, there is some serious synergy at play here in which the two actually benefit from each other with the way that their kits work. Moving on to Xinyan, we're back to nonsense again, as there is no real incentive to use these two together in the same team. You can use Kazuha with Xinyan and Xinyan Mono Pyro if your goal is to make Xinyan feel her best in a team, and Kazuha's an amazing mono team's buffer in general thanks to his provision of damage bonus percent and 4VV. But that's more so making Xinyan good, not making Kazuha good. And there's like 50 other units that you could use in the specific role of a Mono Pyro DPS that'd do 10 times better. Kachina is Geo, Kazuha is Animo. Need I say more? But they can actually have a unique forbidden friendship together when it comes to Nervalette, as they can both be used in the same Nervalette team. Nervi, Farina, Kazuha, and Kachina. I already mentioned earlier why Kachina is great with Nervalette, and Kazuha is always pretty great with Nervalette thanks to his holding of 4VV and excellent damage bonus percent buffing. Though, I've already went over why Kachina cons are kind of whatever on the whole. So you can reap the benefits of Kachina and Kazuha's synergy even with your Kachina at C0. I'll briefly cover the weapons banner too while I'm at it. Freedom Sworn is great on either Farina and Kuki Shinobu and Alhaitham teams, and Kazuha makes pretty good use of it in Arlecchino, Linny, Nervalette, and Raiden Shogun teams. My main issue with it is that Kazuha's ER requirements are difficult to meet with Freedom Sworn, and I consider R5 Zephos' Moonlight to be a more valuable Kazuha weapon on the whole. Decent weapon with a couple of great uses if you lose to it, but on Kazuha himself, it's a bit iffy due to ER. Surf's Up is not only going to look funny on Wanderer, but I feel like it'll be fairly effective on him too, as he gains a ton of crit damage and some NA percent from it. But the NA percent isn't that big of a deal since Scaramouche loses it pretty quickly due to needing consistent vapes to maintain it, which he cannot do. Outside of that, it's a simple crit stick weapon in the same vein as Kagura's Verity, Lost Prayers, etc. Nervalette will also like all of the crit damage and the HP percent that this weapon provides, pretty decent 5-star catalyst, and it's amazing for Mualani herself. The Ring of Yasha will be a free craftable that's amazing on Mualani though, so no need to feel pressured into pulling. How about the Banner 4 stars? Well, Stringless is an amazing Fischl choice for aggravate teams, and also a great Fischl option in general, with very powerful refinements. Fischl's a super powerful 4-star, so that's pretty neat. It's also a nice EM-based bow for an EM-based beautiful Venti to hold, helping him do more reaction-based damage. Good stuff. Sac Frags is an amazing Nihida option thanks to the EM, is amazing for Sucrose thanks to the EM and extra skill charge, which allows for more batterying potential, and is on the whole a really neat catalyst for plenty of high value catalyst users. It'll mostly be nice for more support based catalyst units. Alright, looking good so far. Favonia's sword has so many high value uses. Xingqiu, Bennett, yes I know that the base attack is low but the ER is very valuable, Kazuha, C0 to 1 for Reina, the possibilities are endless. A timeless weapon which has fantastic refinements that finds its way on so many different kinds of units. It hasn't died off yet after many years of being a peak supportive weapon option, so I don't expect it to in the near future. Hugely valuable. Dragon's Bane is a super cool Hu Tao vape weapon, being amazing for all things Pyro and Hydro when it comes to Hu Tao. It can also technically be good on Xiangling, especially in vape teams like International. But my problem with it is that Xiangling's ER requirements are super dense, so it's pretty difficult to use Dragon's Bane comfortably on Xiangling without ER being a major problem. It can also be used nicely on an EM Raiden in Hyper Bloom teams, where Raiden acts as the EM trigger. All in all, a nice 4-star weapon that has its use cases. Fav Greatsword is the least useful of the whole bunch, but it still has its good use cases, such as being held by Noelle to drive Farina teams, or even to drive Noelle Navia teams with a comp like Noelle, Farina, Yolande, Navia. You can sacrifice Noelle's own damage to run her as an on-field healer with great crystallized generation. Xinyan can hold it to a C2+ to fire off more bursts so that she can have her shield up more consistently. Definitely more niche than the other 4-stars here, but it's still absolutely worth your time. All in all, an excellent weapon banner this time around. There's something for everyone here, so if you're pulling for either of the 5-star signatures this patch, good luck and have fun. You'll find yourself ending up with plenty of great 4-star weapons and valuable refinements on your account after your wishing session has concluded. And while you're at it, enjoy the less fate points required to land your desired weapon as well. The banners feel very generalist this time around. I think that's a fairly good thing considering that Genshin 5.0 is going to draw in a ton of new players that have never touched the game before in their lives. Hoyoverse is most likely aware of this, so it's no wonder that the likes of Bennett is on banners despite having zero synergy with Mualani. To be fair, he is pretty good for Kazuha though. Xinyan still feels like an odd one though. Not quite sure what the mission statement there was. In any case, I'm pretty pleased with the turnout of these banners. I'm a little disappointed that there's no Chevres here, but that's more so because I want her cons. It wouldn't have made sense here anyway, what with there not being a single Pyro or Electro DPS on banners and all. Hopefully this video was able to tell you how good the upcoming Genshin 5.0 banners are on the whole. This has been Juice, signing out, and may you all win your weapon 50/50s, win all your character wishes, and receive all the 4 stars that you desire. May wanters be havers on the whole, my friends.